All right, welcome everybody. The Office of Programs to Enhance Neuroscience Workforce Diversity at the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke is very pleased to welcome you to this open house. We do this event about 3 times a year, focusing on different career stages each time this year. And this event is specifically for kind of early career faculty, people thinking about getting faculty positions, that sort of thing. So thank you so much for registering and joining us today. Few housekeeping items. We do have captions, so you can turn those on. You can type questions in the chat, but just know that we're going to have breakout rooms. That's the whole point of this open house, is for you to meet the speakers and the programs, learn more about the programs that we're sharing today. So you can ask your questions in those breakout rooms at the end. And the presentation that we share today is going to be recorded. We'll share a whole bunch of resources, the slides, the recording, everything after the event. So no need to worry about that. We will share the slides with you with a whole bunch of links. But the breakout rooms will not be recorded, so you can ask your questions freely. On the agenda for today, we have a brief overview of NINDS. We're going to talk about funding opportunities specifically for early career faculty, share a whole bunch of resources, and then again, we have breakout rooms for you to meet our NINDS staff, our NINDS funded programs, and other programs that support faculty in neuroscience. So your speakers today are going to be Dr. Michelle Jones-London. She is the chief of our open office, and Dr. Lauren Ulrich, who is a program director in the open office. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Jones-London to get us started.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahimi, for organizing this. And as she said, we'll go through a lot of information very quickly, just so that everyone can sort of start off with the same base foundation, and then we'll have pretty more in-depth, fruitful conversations in the breakouts. To start off, we're obviously NINDS, National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, part of the NIH, which is 27 different institutes and centers. And as we say, once you've spoken to one institute, you've spoken to one institute. So keep that in mind with the information that you'll hear today, especially regarding the funding mechanisms and those programs, is that we're really speaking from the lens of NINDS. NINDS has a mission to seek fundamental knowledge about the brain and nervous system, and to use that knowledge to reduce the burden of neurological diseases. So our institute funds basic, translational, clinical research. And we also benefit from some congressionally mandated programs in terms of investments like the BRAIN Initiative, the HEAL program focusing on pain, ADRD, and many other trans NIH initiatives. Hopefully everyone on this call has some relevance to NINDS, but even if you don't, we know that a lot of missions sort of go across different institutes, and we have shared missions spaces with other institutes, Alzheimer's being an example of that. And so you can always go to Matchmaker and look to see where is your likely home. Once you do that, sometimes you'll find a program officer, sometimes it'll still be confusing. One thing that you should really leave with today is that finding your program officer before you submit an application, or even as you're thinking about an application, is really imperative. We have many names for program officers here at the NIH. It could be a program director or a health scientist administrator, but really contacting them, getting to know them in terms of the priority areas for a given institute, in this case, NINDS, is really important. Also, in terms of contacting them, you really want to do that by an email, perhaps sharing your specific aims. They don't have to be perfect at all. You can send a draft, bullets, just really give them a sense of what you're thinking about in terms of science, and that'll help them assess, is their submission relevant area for NINDS, or they can do a warm handoff to another IC. You want to contact people early in the application process, and really that isn't the last time you have that conversation. Once you get that summary statement, you want to then reach out again. But if you forget anything else that we tell you during this webinar, this is probably the most important piece. Get to know who your program officer is for the research that you're exploring. And at the bottom of the slide, we'll send out a link, and also on our webpage is a way that can also help you find out who your NINDS program officer is. So now we'll go a little bit into the actual funding opportunities with a lens that today, as Dr. Ibrahimi said, we really do want to focus on advanced postdocs and early faculty. A lot of you may be familiar with the open office at NINDS for the training programs, and I've seen some familiar names in terms of people that have maybe even taken advantage of some of the opportunities that we have listed in purple. Today, we'll move beyond these training programs and really focus on programs that are more targeted to when you're getting towards your independent researcher phase. These training programs on this slide, I put these here just to remind you all, but for some of you, they may be new. And as you're thinking about starting up your lab, these can be wonderful ways in which you can bring earlier career mentees into your lab and a good resource for funding as well. One of the programs that I'll start with isn't actually what we would call a funding opportunity, but is a resource for funds. It's the loan repayment program. This is a congressionally resourced program run out of our NIH Office of Director. And this really has, you see in the graphic, really is a lifeline for researchers with regards to educational debt, especially in the communities that we're trying to target and outreach to. We know that that can be a factor in terms of people not staying in research careers. This program is really amazing. It's open to US citizens or permanent residents, and you have to have a 20% debt to income ratio. It offers awards and repays up to $50K for 2 years for qualified educational debt. It's a lot of people don't know about this program, but if you're eligible for it, I can't think of, and I see we're getting some shout outs in the chat. It's a wonderful program to apply to. So in the corner, we have the website. Look into this if you do have significant educational debt. And know that it doesn't matter if you already have a K award or some grant. This is outside of that process. So you're still eligible if you have award. Another program that we want to highlight for junior faculty researchers is our NINDS Faculty Development Award to promote diversity in neuroscience. It's a K01. K01s come in all shapes and flavors at the NIH. So when you're talking about this K01, you really want to make sure you're reading through the NOFO. This Diversity K01 is for a tenure track person who is in their first 3 years of their faculty position. It's outreach towards underrepresented groups, and you have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident. You get to up to 5 years of support. And in the last 2 years, the program officer who holds the award will really look at, are you making sufficient progress? Are you putting in the RPGs? We want this to be a bridge to something, not the end of something. Additional notes are it's $95,000 in terms of salary and $100K to research costs. So this really is a leverage for a junior faculty program person to not only get the pilot data, the collaborations, the support needed to then leverage to that first R01. And we want that to occur while you have your early stage investigator status that Dr. Ulrich will mention more in her part of the presentation. In terms of, you'll see that by nature of it being a K, it is a mentored award, but don't think about this in the sense of some of our F awards or our postdoc, K99. This mentorship, we would love to be able to call it sponsorship or someone who's going to be your talent agent. So the mentoring is expected to be appropriate for this stage of career and to really help quick start that tenure track process, meaning the mentor or the sponsor is really helping you navigate institutional expectations, scientific networks, and really navigate these internal sort of hurdles inside an institution. With regards to sponsorship, we always say it's someone who speaks on your behalf in rooms that you don't maybe have access to. But you don't have to just have that one mentor at the institution. We've also often seen these Diversity K01s have more of a mentorship team flavor, but one of the mentors has to be at the institution to help you navigate those internal barriers at the institution. The next one that I'll speak very, very briefly about, because we have an expert in the room, Dr. Wigan, who's from our we call it our cousin office, the training office. She'll have a breakout room. So these K08s and K23s are really targeted towards physician researchers. The eligibility here is that you have to have a clinical doctoral degree. You must be within 5 years of completing your clinical training, and it then supports up to 5 years of protected research time, which is really important for physicians who you might imagine are torn between their clinical duties or their ability to be able to do research. For most of these physician researchers, we request up to 75% full-time professional effort, but for neurosurgeons, it's actually 50%. And you can see the salary is commensurate with someone in these the clinician researcher pools. The next mechanism that I'd like to highlight, keeping in mind that NINDS, most of our R01 awards do come in unsolicited, and we're part of just the general parent R01. But in particular, with regards to really having a focus on a DEIA lens, there are two programs that you should be aware of. The first is the Diversity R01. And this will be the breakout room that I'll talk more about later. The Diversity R01, the PDs or the PIs that we're looking for are new investigators, and new means someone that has never had an NIH award. So you can be, all early stage investigators are new investigators, but not all new investigators are early stage investigators. The other category you could be in is at risk. And at the bottom of the slide, we have a very small print, is that this at-risk investigator has had prior support maybe, and now they're either in a situation where they're at risk of not having another award. And this means they will have no substantial grant funding in the following fiscal year. So those are the two groups that would be eligible for this. And you can see that we started off with just having 3 ICs participate, but now the list is growing in terms of other ICs who participate in the Diversity R01. And those ICs are at the bottom of the slide. The other program that came along more recently through the NIH Unite initiative, which is a NIH-wide effort to increase workforce diversity, is the ReWARD R01. The eligibility here is a little bit different. So this is for a person who has had no RPG funding at the time of award and is making significant, sustained, and impactful contributions to diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility work. So this is a person who perhaps is doing research, but also is running a significant DEIA program. And there you'll have a letter talking about not only your research, but also the DEIA work you're doing. That's very different than the Diversity R01, which the review criteria is basically the same as the general R01, but for the ReWARD R01, the reviewer is going to look equally at the research you're proposing and also at the DEIA activities that you're proposing. And we'll talk about that more in the breakout if you have an interest in either of these programs. The next thing that I'll point out is some of these smaller RPG awards that are very specific in purpose. you want to be careful. These smaller ones don't just mean, oh, I don't have enough data, so let me not apply for an R01. Let me apply to something smaller. No, they have specific uses. And for, for example, the R03, pretty small in dollars, 50K. Here you're applying for this for a particular purpose. Perhaps you need, a collection of preliminary data, small contained projects. Sometimes it's more resources. It's very, very defined. And mostly for early stage investigators, we say this may not be the amount of time and effort unless you can really think about something that's very specific use for this. It may be better to put your efforts to an actual R01. You don't always have to request the total 5 years for an R01. The other thing is the R21. This is exploratory developmental. We usually call it high risk, high reward, is how our particular institute uses it. And, here, preliminary data is not required, but may be included if available. In terms of when we look at our analysis of R21s, they're just as competitive as the R01s. So once again, think very carefully about this. Does it make sense to do this? Is this project something that you feel is so innovative and high risk, high reward that it wouldn't review as well if it was just an R01? The other awards that sort of have special eligibility are awards that are restricted by institutional eligibility. And the two programs here are the R15, which people sometimes refer to as the Area Award, also known now as the REAP Award. So these support small scale research projects, and usually it's targeted towards institutions that don't have a lot of necessarily research funding and really have exposure of students to research. So in the application, in the review, you'll not only talking about the research itself, the research project, but also the exposure to students towards that research with a lens towards more undergraduates often. So, you'll have to, your institution, your sponsor grants office will know if your institution is eligible for the R15. The other thing, and this is a program led by NIGMS, but NINDS participates, and Dr. Lauren Ulrich is our point of contact, are the R16s. These support research projects conducted by, faculty and really serve institutions that serve students from groups underrepresented in the biomedical research. And these are similar, but a little bit of difference, with the R15s, but the goal is to expose students to research, to strengthen research opportunities for faculty. And for the SURE first, the investigators cannot have received previous NIH funding. So that's a little sample of programs that are really targeted towards early faculty and with a lens towards increasing workforce diversity. But in general, I would say for any program, really read and understand the NOFO. That's the term we use now. We used to call it an FOA. Really confirm which institutes and centers are participate, identify eligibility and budget restrictions. It's really, it breaks our heart when people apply to something and it ends up having to get kicked out. Usually CSR makes that determination. So you really want to do all of this homework before you submit an application. Really read through that NOFO. Also, we don't make it a secret in terms of the review criteria. That's in the NOFO as well. So once you prepare your application, go back and compare it against the review criteria. You don't want to be kicked out, or you don't want to be reviewed poorly based on a technicality, not the merit of the science. And once again, really take the time to contact the program official before you get too far down the rabbit hole. And then just to end with this, some of the themes in terms of what scores better across all of these programs is applications that really have clear significance, are talking about an important problem. And that doesn't mean a disease focus. As I said, NINDS has a focus on basic research clinical research, translational research. It just has to describe an important problem and high impact. There has to be a high degree of novelty, innovation. Why does it matter? And you really have to sell yourself in terms of demonstrating your track record of being a well-qualified applicant. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a senior investigator. You can demonstrate that from your time as a postdoc and your research there and your qualifications there as well. Clear rationale, supportive preliminary data, unless it says that they don't want preliminary data. You really do want to show that feasibility, and that ties into the last bullet that really talks about really demonstrating that you're doing rigorous research. That's really important, and that's something that NINDS looks very carefully in terms of all the awards that we fund. And so with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Lauren Ulrich.
Hi, everyone. So I'll spend a few minutes talking about various policies and resources and things that are available to help you when you're navigating all of these, the sort of the NIH system in general. And the first and probably most important is the early stage investigator status that Dr. Jones-London referenced earlier. And just as a reminder, this is anyone who hasn't had what we call a substantial NIH grant, which is usually the R01, and you're within 10 years of completing either your terminal research degree, usually the PhD, or within 10 years of completing the medical residency. And the reason why this is so important, I'll get into in the next slide, but it is also really important to know your ESI status and to request any extensions that you might be eligible for. So for example, you can have 1 year extension for each child birth, and then other things like disability, family care responsibilities. There's lots of other things that you can apply for extensions of your status. The reason why it's so important is that NIH in general and NINDS in particular, we prioritize R01 applications from ESIs. At NINDS, we will fund 10 points beyond the pay line. Right now, we're at an 11th percentile pay line. The ESI, we're funding to 21st percentile. So you're basically doubling your chances of getting funding as long as you're in that ESI status. In peer review, peer reviewers also tend to approach ESI applications, knowing that you're not going to be demonstrating the same track record that somebody who's been doing research for 30 years has. And in general, CSI will group ESI applications. So the reviewers are comparing apples to apples and not trying to compare early stage investigators with very established investigators. There are a lot of other resources from CSR in general. If you want to learn more about review, understanding review is really crucial to getting your applications funded. One way to do that is to participate in the CSR Early Career Reviewer Program. There's a lot of information about this on their website with the eligibility criteria, but it's a way for you to sort of ease into your reviewing career. You have sort of a lighter load, you're listening in and you're really understanding how review works without having this burden of reviewing, many, many grants during a time when you should be focusing on getting your own grant. They also have mock study section videos if you're not eligible for the early career reviewer program yet or waiting to attend that. And they also have a lot of information about the initiatives that they're doing right now to address bias in peer review. If you have any questions about that, or if you feel like you've experienced bias, there are ways to report that. And CSR takes that very seriously and would like, for you to do that. Michelle also mentioned this earlier. The NIH Reporter is a great resource for anyone who is applying. I use it probably daily just to sort of see what's going on. you can use it to find other projects in your research area, figure out potential collaborators or maybe competitors. You can also look up study sections, although CSR also has its own tool for looking up study sections called ART, Assisted Referral Tool. And if you are looking at potentially applying for a diversity supplement in some way, shape, or form, you could even find potential projects that might be eligible for a supplement through Reporter. And then Matchmaker, which is like a sub-function of Reporter, is one way for you to put in your aims, and it uses like natural language processing and spits out like what ICs are the best fit, what institutes or centers, what program directors you might reach out to. It's a great place to get started if you just really have no idea where to go. The NIH Guide to Grants and Contracts is also a great resource. Presumably you all have read NOFOs before, so that means you have used the guide even if you didn't even know that you did. But it has a lot of other features that I think not everyone knows about. They have a listserv that spits out or emails you every Friday the table of contents of everything that is been published. You can also subscribe to like specific alerts. So if you just want to know about all the applications that contain the word epilepsy, or all the NOFOs that contain the word epilepsy that have been published, since your last email, they can give you that kind of thing, or anything NINDS publishes, it'll send you an email, etc. We also have a podcast called Building Up the Nerve. I'm a co-host. Our tagline kind of says it all, I think. We know that navigating your career can be daunting. And we really believe that as program officers that we're here to help. We want to give you all the information that you need in order to be successful with your NIH grants. We have 4 seasons. The first is really about the NIH grant cycle from the NINDS perspective. The second season is all the different parts of the fellowship and K applications. The third season is all about mentoring. And then the 4th season that was released last year is demystifying the hidden curriculum. So each episode focuses on a different career stage. So we have one about postdoc, we have one about faculty, even mid-career faculty episode, which I personally thought was really interesting. So hopefully we have a little something for everyone. And you can find that, anywhere you get your podcasts. We also have the Open Stage webinar series, another effort that we have in order to try and connect our audiences with different NINDS programs. We're doing a lot at NINDS. I work here, I don't even know everything that's happening. So we partner with our colleagues in order to present information to you all about all the different funding opportunities and various other things that are happening here that you all should know about. And you can find previous webinars on the NINDS YouTube page. And if you connect with us in other ways, we can keep you up to date on that. We also wanted to show you all or make you all aware of the NIH First program. This is run through the Common Fund, which is part of the Office of the Director, but NINDS participates a lot with this opportunity. It's the Faculty Institutional Recruitment for Sustainable Transformation First program, which funded 15 separate awards to do cohort hiring of faculty that are committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility efforts. Some of these programs, they have already hired all of their faculty, but there's a substantial number of them that are still doing searches and a substantial number that are still looking for neuroscience in particular. And the great thing about these programs is that they are also, in addition to recruiting faculty, they have committed to developing those faculty, and they have committed to taking a hard look at the culture And that's the institutional transformation piece, that they are really supposed to be making their institution more inclusive to help develop those faculty. We also at NINDS fund many different programs through our R25s, or our Research Education Awards. We have many national programs in particular that are targeted for mentorship, professional development, and this idea of like creating networks and cohorts. And we even have some that are specifically for faculty. Those are listed on this website. We have the Transcends program, the Brains program, Minds program, Launch, and then Diversifying CNS. And several representatives from these programs are here with you today, and going to give you a little elevator pitch shortly, but just wanted to orient you all that these programs exist. And we also have a lot of other programs to support other career stages, from all the way from undergrad through junior faculty. So if you are maybe a little earlier in your career, we also have programs for you. Or if you have students in your lab, graduate students that are really looking for that, that support, and specifically for diverse graduate students and postdocs, then these programs are really great resources. And before I sort of open it up for our breakout rooms, I'll just say we have many different ways to connect with you. You can follow us on X or Twitter. We have a listserv that goes out every Tuesday. We have a newsletter. You can just email us. This email goes to everyone in the office. And then again, I'll just give one more shout out for our podcast. Okay. So that's all of us talking at you. Well, almost all of us talking at you. In a few minutes, we're going to open up our breakout rooms. The first room will be for clinician-scientists programs, and Dr. Wygand and Matthews will be moderating that program, the breakout room. The second room will be the ReWARD and Diversity R01s, and Dr. Jones-London will be manning that room. I will be monitoring the third room, which is the Diversity K01. And then we have 5 different programs with us. And I'm going to give each of them a chance to introduce themselves and pitch their program to you. And then you'll have about 25, maybe 20 minutes to ask questions. And we highly encourage you to sort of spread out throughout the breakout rooms. You can move around. And you don't feel like you have to pick a room and stay with it the whole time. Okay, so first, we will have the Minds program. Dr. Torres, do you want to give us your elevator pitch?
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for the invitation and congratulations to all of you. My name is Gonzalo Torres. I am a professor at Loyola University Chicago and director of the Mentoring Institute for Neuroscience Diversity Scholars, MINDS, which is a national program that promotes and supports the careers of underrepresented junior faculty in neuroscience. So each year we select 8 to 10 underrepresented assistant professors from research institutions across the country, usually in their first or second year of their faculty position, and develop what we call a one-year enrichment program that consists of 3 major components. The first one is a 3-day in-person conference in the summer, usually, where the MINDS fellows are paired with a senior mentor in the research area who will attend the conference and work with the fellow to develop a competitive grant proposal. We also have a grant writing workshop, a mock study section, where fellows act as reviewers, a keynote speaker, and several professional development sessions during this conference. Second, we invite all fellows to the Society for Neuroscience annual meeting and develop a one-day pre-meeting workshop where we discuss topics that are important to the fellows and therefore selected by the fellows. For instance, time management, being a minority in a majority institution, dealing with microaggression and bias, and so on. And finally, the program supports an enrichment activity that is going to promote the fellow's research program, and it's identified, therefore, by the fellow. Usually, we support attendance to small scientific meetings like a Gordon conference, or visit to labs to learn the technique, or start a collaboration. So the MINDS program has supported 75 junior faculty since its inception in 2014. So you want to know more, I'm going to be in room 4. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Etkin.
Hi, I'm here to talk about Diversity, which is a privately funded national program that targets senior postdocs who are prepared to apply for some sort of a K award and pre-tenure faculty in any area of neuroscience. We begin with a 3.5-day in-person workshop, generally at the University of Chicago, although we may hop around a little bit, where we have workshops on things like implicit bias, stereotype threat, imposter syndrome, navigating institutions, negotiating with institutions, and factors that affect the retention and perseverance of underrepresented groups in academia. At that time, we also form grant coaching groups that are facilitated by senior faculty. And those groups, which include 3 or 4 participants and 1 or 2 faculty facilitators, meet twice during the workshop, but then continue to meet with the applicants and have mock grant reviews for up to 10 or 12 months until every member of the group has actually gotten their grants submitted. And so far, we have about a 35% success rate with our faculty participants, which is a bit higher than the NIH average. So I'll be in the room to talk about it further.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Mizell.
Yes, so the goal of our Diversifying CNS program is actually pretty simple. In 2020, we recruited a cohort of talented graduate students, postdocs, and early stage investigators. And what we wanted to do was provide them with the professional skills to retain them in neuroscience research. And from workshops that have been put on by Dr. Jones-London, we had learned that there still is what used to be called the leaky pipeline. I don't know what's the current metaphor, but that a lot of people were being lost at the transition points between graduate school, postdoc, and faculty positions. And so the idea is that we wanted to provide them with professional skills to retain them in neuroscience research, to help them overcome what are kind of inherent and systemic barriers to success. And so this is a longitudinal program. And so we started in 2020 with a cohort, and we've maintained them. And so the our hope at least, is that we will be able to continue the program in the future. And so the plan at the moment is to try to recruit the next cohort in the spring of 2025.
Okay, that's room 4, and Dr. Kim will be moderating that. So now for room 5 with Dr. Sanchez, I will turn it over to Dr. Horner-Devine to introduce brains.
Great, thank you so much. My name's Claire Horner-Devine, and I'm here to talk about the BRAINS program. The BRAINS program is designed to advance diversity and leadership in neuroscience. And to make that happen, what we do is we are a national program, so you can come from anywhere across the US, and you join the program as an early career researcher. So that means you have your PhD, but you are pre-tenure or pre-tenure equivalent. And that means if you're at an institution that doesn't offer tenure, but you're at about that same career stage. You also need to be a member of an underrepresented group in neuroscience. And for our program, you join a cohort launch event where you either come in person for 4 days or you have a virtual community. And the real hallmark of those programs is that we do a lot of work connecting one another, becoming community, developing relationships with one another, but also with yourself. So when you join the BRAINS program, there's a lot of time and reflection that goes to figuring out what does success in neuroscience in your career really look like and really mean to you. The second part of the program, once you have your launch event, is that you join a regularly meeting peer coaching group. So you meet every other week with other folks from your cohort to do a process that really helps you get access to continuing to build community, continuing to build relationships, and then to really doing some problem solving for the opportunities, decisions, and challenges that you're facing in real time when you're back at your institution doing your work. The last thing I'll say is a real hallmark of the program is that once you're in BRAINS, you're always in BRAINS. So once you finish the initial program of the launch event and the peer coaching circles, we have ongoing engagement opportunities for you throughout your career. So we have spring workshops, we have programming at SFN, and every other year we have an in-person, when possible, event where all of the alumni from the cohorts are invited to a 2-day leadership development workshop. So I will be in room 2 or breakout room 5 to talk more about it with anyone who has questions. Thanks.
And last, but certainly not least, we have launch. Dr. Trejo.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Joanne Trejo, professor and PI and director of the UC San Diego NINDS supported launch program, which is a national program. We are a cohort program, and we take 6 to 8 early career or transitioning postdocs every year. The overall goal of the launch program is to effectively mentor and train early career faculty and/or transitioning postdocs in academic skills with a specific focus on developing a competitive neuroscience research program and skills to succeed in obtaining extramural funding. And that's accomplished through immersion in an intense grant writing course that occurs through 8 to 9 sessions and results in the review in the mock study review of the final draft of your proposal. Launch participants receive strong mentorship working with a 3-membered mentoring team, and it's a year-long program that includes 3 in-person visits to UCSD, including 2 week-long summer visits and 1 winter visit, and several virtual sessions during the academic year. Our program intentionally builds community, networking, and collaborations amongst the participants, as well as other junior faculty and senior faculty. We've trained 21 early career faculty, and to date, 62% of them have received extramural grant awards. We're currently recruiting for the next cohort. Applications are due February 28th. Next month, and I will be in room 5 together with my colleague Vivian Resnick, and we hope to see you there.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're going to open the breakout rooms now.